Present arms. Order arms. Right face.
Good evening. Is this on?
Yes.
Yes. I'm Chris Johnson. I am Ed Jackson's nephew and his godson. And I also am retired as an Episcopal priest. And the privilege to be here this evening as we bid our honors to Ed, to Uncle Ed, to Dad, Grandpa, to a colleague. So I first would just like to thank you on behalf of Diane and Christy and their families for being here to join them as they seek to pay tribute to their father and grandfather, someone who shaped their lives indelibly and through their lives continues to shape the world. So again, on their behalf, welcome and thank you for being here. I invite you to follow along with the old print that will be on the board behind me, so please join me. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. O God of mercy, your grace and glory, we remember before you this day our brother Edward. We thank you for giving him to us, his family and friends, to know and love as a companion on our earthly pilgrimage. In your boundless compassion, console us who mourn. Give us faith to see in death the gate of eternal life, so that in quiet confidence we may continue our course on earth, until by your call we are reunited with those who have gone before, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Most merciful God, whose wisdom is beyond our understanding, deal graciously with our families and friends in their grief. Surround us with your love, that we may not be overwhelmed by our loss, but have confidence in your goodness and strength to meet the days to come.
Amen.
Period.
Please join me in reading responsibly the whole portions that you see before you. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
You make me lie down in green pastures. You lead me beside quiet waters.
You restore my soul. You guide me in the paths of righteousness for your name's sake.
Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me.
You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup overflows.
Surely goodness and loving kindness will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
I thought I'd awaken to a world in mourning, heavy clouds crowning, a society storming. But there's something different on this golden morning, something magical in the sunlight, wide and warming. I see a dad with a stroller taking a jog. Across the street, a bright-eyed girl chases her dog. A grandma on the porch fingers her rosaries. She grins as her young neighbor brings her groceries. Well, we might feel small, separate, and all alone. Our people have never been more closely tethered. The question isn't if we will weather this unknown, but how we will weather this unknown together. So on this meaningful morn, we mourn and we mend. Like light, we can't be broken, even when we bend. As one, we will defeat both despair and disease. We stand with healthcare heroes and all employees. With families, libraries, schools, waiters, artists, businesses, restaurants, and hospitals hit hardest. We ignite not in the light, but in the lack thereof. For it is in loss that we truly learn to love. In this chaos, we will discover clarity. In suffering, we must find solidarity. For it's our grief that gives us our gratitude, shows us how to find hope if we ever lose it. So ensure that this ache wasn't endured in vain. Do not ignore the pain. Give it purpose. Use it. Read children's books, dance along to DJ music. Know that this distance will make our hearts grow fonder. From a wave of woes, our world will emerge stronger. We'll observe how the burdens braved by humankind are also the moments that make us humans kind. Let every dawn find us courageous, brought closer, heeding the light before the fight is over. When this ends, we'll smile sweetly, finally seeing, in testing times, we became the best of beings.
A reading from Matthew. Jesus said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hid, nor do we light a lamp and put it under a bushel, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. Let your light so shine before all, that they may see your good works and give glory to God who is in heaven. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
JC, I invite you to come forward at this time to offer the eulogy.
Two or 3 minutes. Tuesday mornings, 9 o'clock, and the staff meetings will begin. I say, guys, 15 minutes and we're out of here. And every Christmas for the next 4 or 5 years, Ed Jackson gave me a stopwatch. There's lots, I just have to say this, I discern. There's lots of love in this place, in this room. But it's a great and humbling honor to speak today to my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Ed Jackson. I'm J.C. Bassnight, and I was privileged to serve in a variety of capacities at Fayetteville Tech over my 34-year career, 25 of which were at Fayetteville Tech, and the last 8, which I served as Vice President of Academic Student Services. Those years found Ed and me side by side, serving an institution that meant so much to both of us. Ed touched many people. And as I reflected on his life, I kept coming back to the words of the Apostle Paul in 2 Thessalonians. Never get tired of doing good. These simple words capture the essence of Ed Jackson. After an outstanding military career, he retired as a major with 20 years of service and immediately began another remarkable chapter, serving Fayetteville Tech for 23 years. Retirement for Ed simply meant finding another way to serve. Anyone who knew Ed remembers that big, contagious smile. But behind that smile was an even bigger heart, a heart that loved helping people. Many students and colleagues remember how he always had time to listen and was always careful to treat people fairly, always doing good, sharing, giving, and helping. I'm certain each of you have your own story about how Ed helped you. Every successful institution has a story behind it. Buildings don't create legacies, people do. And behind those legacies, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of perseverance and hard work. And Dr. Ed Jackson had that kind of unwavering commitment to Fayetteville Tech. And because of that, he is forever ingrained in its legacy. During our shared tenure, if there had been such a title, Ed would have been known as Mr. FTE. General education, math, English, humanities, you name it, Ed was all over it. He also deserved another title. He could be called the king of off-campus programs. Let me explain that. The curriculum programs at Spring Lake and Fort Bragg, and even the beautiful Spring Lake campus building itself, would not exist as they do today without Dr. Jackson's foresight and determination. He believed military personnel and their families deserve access to educational opportunities, and he worked diligently to remove barriers, open pathways for them to earn college credits, achieve promotions, and earn associate degrees. Dr. J had a vision, a dream, if you will, to advance educational opportunities for the American soldier. Low cost, easy access, a chance to build a transcript and work towards degree completion. In his free time, he even taught night classes at the local universities. I wonder sometimes if he was over there recruiting the freshmen to come to Philip. Just last week, I had the privilege of witnessing the fruit of Ed's labor as one of his former students was promoted to full bird colonel. That legacy, Ed planted seed. He opened doors. He never got tired of doing good. He invested in people, and those investments continue to bear fruit today. One of Ed's most significant accomplishments was introducing the college to sock ed. Ray, you remember that big tall book? Man, and the ACE, wow. It was the Servicemen's Opportunity College Army Degree Program, or SOC ed. It allowed college credits earned by military personnel to rightly transfer with them. It was crucial for service members and their families who were pursuing educational and career goals while also fulfilling their military duty around the globe, to have their earned credits recognized and accepted worldwide. So thank you, Dr. J. And he didn't stop there. The American Council on Education, or ACE as we call it, set the standard for personnel. Let's just give you a scenario, E7 or E8, maybe with 10 years of experience. You could open the book and you could look down and you could see the credits that we could award. And Ed fought for the right for the soldier to get those credits. Those actions proved to be life-changing accomplishments, paving the way for generations of military service members to earn and preserve their hard-earned college credits. Now let me just give you a little backstory. Ed and I met in the Learning Lab when Miss Shirley Moore was the director. Raise your hand if you remember Shirley Moore, the Learning Lab. Wow, we really go back. I was hired July 1st, 1982, and I didn't have an office. About a month later, Ed was hired, and he didn't have an office. The order soon came down to cut out a brick wall, install a door to create an office in Lafayette Hall. And I just had to squeeze this in. I'm walking in, Leland Ellis, the brick mason instructor, said, "Are you J.C. Bass?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Where do you want this door?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Bill Cease said, meet you first thing in the morning and cut a door in this hallway for your office." Things were done quite rapidly at Bibliotech when a certain voice was heard. Ed had been hired in the counseling department, but instantly his knowledge of Fort Bragg began to shine. The college saw in Ed a golden opportunity. So he was assigned to start curricular programs at Fort Bragg. To do that effectively, Ed felt his office should be housed at Fort Bragg. It's a logical step, and once he won over the decision makers, shared office space quickly took shape in continuing education at Fort Bragg. That move reflected who Ed was. He always went where the work needed to be done. Around the same time, Ed took on another challenge. He decided to use his GI Bill to pursue a doctoral degree through Nova University. He promptly purchased one of those early Apple computers, and he was off. A few weeks into the program, I asked him how things were going. He smiled with a big smile, and he said he had just turned in his first paper. The professor, using language a bit more colorful than I could repeat tonight, essentially told him, "You have room for improvement." And as usual, Ed rose to the occasion. He accepted the challenge, worked harder, grew as a scholar, earned his degree, and did it all while working full time. That was Ed. Whether you knew him as Ed, Dr. J, Dr. Jackson, Mr. FTE, or King of the Curricular Programs, there was one more title that fit him perfectly, in my opinion. The Energizer Bunny. Yes, Ed came to work at 7 o'clock every morning, read emails while the phones were quiet, And later, he was still right there meeting classes in the evenings at Fort Bragg. Ed simply never slowed down. He was the ultimate make it happen person. And he never got tired of doing good. When the general ed department chairs put 2 or 3 classes on the off-campus schedule, Ed would move the offerings up to 10 or 15. No joke. He literally grew the off-campus offerings to a crazy number of FTEs. Administrators loved it. Department chairs, not much. They were constantly scrambling to find instructors to cover all those classes. But that was classic Ed. He pushed for excellence. Once empowered, he was unstoppable, forever driven to do good. In 1999, Ed was promoted from director of off-campus programs to the dean of general ed, and eventually associate vice president for curricular programs. Every stage of his achievement stands as proof of his consistent, exceptional performance. Yes, we even brought Ed back to the main campus to literally fill the seats in the new buildings. The college flourished under Dr. Jackson's leadership, and many new programs were started, especially in the health field. Dr. Jackson continued serving until his second retirement in 2005. Then, after I retired in 2007, he returned briefly to serve as the interim vice president for academic and student services. Even in retirement, he couldn't resist one more opportunity to serve, because that's who he was, a man who never got tired of doing good. Outside of work, Ed was just as committed to his faith, his family, his community. He served on the Arts Council, supported his daughter's high school drama productions, kept close ties with the grandkids, and participated in community theater. He once told me about one of his acting roles, and the whole family participated. He said, all I did, JC, was stand there and hold a tree. Only Ed could tell that story with joy. Ed and I attended many conferences together, and on several of those occasions, our wives, Miss Ellie and my wife Jill, joined us. Ed and Ellie were seasoned travelers, and those trips, plus the many Christmas parties he hosted in his home, created memories that Jill and I will always treasure. Whenever we walk into a banquet, before we even look for a table, we see Ed waving both arms, saving seats for us and calling us over. That's just who he was, always thinking about someone else. I've often said that if I ever had to go to war, I wanted Ed standing right beside me. If anyone would cover your back, it was Ed, and it was an honor to do his back as well. As I close, many members of our FTCC family have completed their earthly journeys since my retirement. But the scripture gives us a promise in 1 John 5:13. It is written that you may know that you have eternal life. Because of that promise, I know I will see Ed again. Dr. Searles, thank you for allowing this memorial service to be held here on the Fayetteville Tech campus. There could be no more fitting place to celebrate the life of a man who loved his college so deeply and helped share his future to Diane and Christy. Thank you for honoring your father by inviting all of us to celebrate his life. You have also honored those of us who had the privilege of working beside him, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, and heart to heart. We grieve with you today. But we also celebrate. We celebrate the life well lived, a faithful servant, a loyal friend, a devoted husband and father, a visionary leader, a man whose influence continues to bless thousands of lives, a man who truly never got tired of doing good. Our late, great colleague and friend, Dr. Ed Jackson. Thank you.
everyone. I'm Miranda Schnorr. I'm Ed's eldest granddaughter. I will start by saying that I also admired very similar qualities in my grandfather, qualities that I can only really appreciate as I've gotten older. And say thank you, JC, for touching on it. The ability that he had to create something wonderful out of nothing. He was a man who could envision greatness and figure out how to get there without any sort of roadmap. So it's evident when you look at his work here at Fayetteville Tech, but I think about this most when it comes to our family. My grandfather created a loving, close, and supportive family without really any sort of guide on how to do that. I remember as a child, he would get down on the floor to play with my sister and I, which can't have been easy on his knees. And there was a toy closet too in his house for whenever we visited, so that we would know we were wanted, welcomed, and loved. He opened his home for our whole family, not just my sister and I, but my cousins, Megan and Alice, and our cousins on both of our dad's sides as well. Going through the pictures for the slideshow this past week, there were pool party photos of us and all of our cousins that spanned at least a decade. He once built us a puppet theater for scratch for Christmas, not because we had asked for it, but just because he saw our love for performing and storytelling and he wanted to nurture it. I never doubted that my grandfather believed I could do whatever it is I wanted to do. He showed up as often as he possibly could. My grandparents came to almost all of our theater and dance performances, and between my sister and I, there were quite a few. And it didn't have to be theater either, although he was also a performer. When I would talk to him on the phone, especially in the last few years, he'd always have something to share about Alice's softball team, or the robotics, or Megan's work in school. And when I stopped performing, he would be just as interested in whatever it was I was doing, whether it was the work, how my cat was doing, how my pottery was progressing. He supported all of us wholeheartedly, and he gave us the room to grow without any sort of pressure or judgment, just to pursue whatever it is that we wanted to do. He gave us a guide for how to be a family, how we can show up for others, how we can help other people to feel seen and loved. And that's a gift that I will treasure forever, and a legacy that I can only hope to continue in his honor. So thank you for letting me share.
So I'm Diane, I'm the oldest daughter, and I've been working on this eulogy in my head all week. Although, true confession, I didn't start writing it until I boarded the plane yesterday. Dad, who was always early for everything, would not have approved. You've already heard about what an incredible human being Dr. Edward Jackson was. Thank you, JC, for giving us a glimpse into professional and civic-minded and friend Ed. Thank you, Miranda, for touching on the love that he brought to his role as a grandpa. And anybody who can make 6 young women believe that they were the favorite person, that's pretty extraordinary. Christy and I have been talking all week, and I'd like to take this time to share the tale of 2 dads. Christy and I are 5 years apart. We often joke that we grew up as only oldest daughters who became true friends as we grew up. So let's start with the dad I remember. I'm talking, I get to go first. I got the military dad, the rock star, the one who jumped out of airplanes and who pushed people out of them too. I got the glamorous dad, the one who showed up magically from the field just in time for Christmas with Santa. The dad who grinned when I put my feet up on the general's desk. The one who let me push the button on a nuclear warhead during a war games demonstration. Don't worry, it was unarmed. I got the dad who packed magic into moments, who turned pool time into a wild game of Captain Hook and Peter Pan, who introduced me to nature while taking me on Volksmarches in the woods when we lived in Germany. That dad was fun and a little bit mysterious. He challenged me to always be on my toes, to live life to the fullest, to make every single moment count. The dad I knew taught me empathy, even though he didn't see himself as a reader, and more on that in a moment. He read to me and he encouraged me to read to him. And when I was an alien who suddenly took up all of my mom's precious time. Okay, she wasn't really an alien, but when I begged for a baby sister, I mistakenly thought I was getting somebody my own age. Dad turned out to be my best friend. Not only did he play with me, the poor guy must have been so sick of Sunshine Family and Fisher-Price castles, he also introduced me to the book friend who would change my life. The book was Ezra Jack Keats' Peter's Chair. And just like me, Peter had a brand new baby sister who was using his things and hogging his mother. We both lived in apartments. We both had funny looking dogs. Mine was Muffins, don't judge. His was Willie. And we both had dads who saw our confusion at going from being a pampered and spoiled only child to having to learn how to share. And just like the dad in the book, my dad helped make things better by making me feel special and included. By helping me find comfort in the pages of a story, my dad taught me my earliest remembered lessons in empathy. He helped me understand that while we might look different on the outside, have different cultural experiences, and even see the world from very different points of view, we all share fundamental big feelings, including the need to be seen, to have our stories heard, to feel valued. And because I had military dad, I also learned how to integrate quickly into unfamiliar communities, assess possibilities, seek connections, listen to needs, and volunteer my time. To this day, I can't show up in a space without going, "Hi, I'm Diane, I'm here to serve." Now, Christy got the dad who was a college dean and later vice president. She got the dad who was already firmly established in community, who modeled how to give back from a deeply rooted place of gratitude, security, and plenty. She got the Kiwanis dad, the theater dad, the space camp dad, the guy who found outlets for his creativity on stage and in helping her shape some pretty doggone cool science projects. She got the dad who was at school way more than she would have liked as he was out there building new programs for Fayetteville Tech with Doc Shipp. And Christy got the dad who helped establish the funeral service program at Fayetteville Tech. Now, that's a great thing, and it's one of his many professional accomplishments, but during those years, having dad as your taxi driver carried a heavy price tag. Because frequently, she was called to tag along when he made pit stops to sign in or receive dead bodies when other people weren't around. I also recently found out that Christy got to go on some pretty incredible weekly daddy-daughter dates when she was 12 or 13. At wakes, for people she didn't know. I'm kind of thinking I got the better end of this. But Christy got the dad who attended every dance recital, every tennis match, every school event, every performance. College dean dad did a remarkable job of showing up and showing Christy again and again how loved she was and is. And military dad and college dean dad are just facets of the same person. And that person forever shaped who we are in this world. To know Ed Jackson was to be forever changed by him. If you're here today, you were also changed by him. And maybe you saw some of the magic we both experienced. Let's start with the animal whisperer. When Dad traveled to Australia with Christy and Alice and me a couple of years ago, it was no surprise to any of us that the person the kangaroos approached to be fed was my dad. Animals loved my dad, and they knew that he was always ready to share a treat, or two, or three. In fact, I figure Arthur and Abby are now on a really good diet. When my dad was in high school, he was hired to clean up and sell parking tickets at this old stone barn castle near North Bay. But it shouldn't surprise you to know that within a few days, he was hired to feed the animals. And as he did his chores, a chimpanzee named Pamela would sit on his shoulder and chatter at him. He was Jane Goodall before Jane Goodall was Jane Goodall. His early encounters with Pamela gave him this deep respect for the intelligence and feelings of other animals. It definitely ignited a sense of wonder and curiosity in him. Dad had a sixth sense about animals, and he was involved in finding every single dog I've ever owned. Animals weren't the only thing that ignited wonder and curiosity in my father. You know, he approached life like a kid in a candy store. He was fascinated by the world around him. He was genuinely interested in people and how they worked. He was really fun to go to a museum with, because just like Christy and I do, he went down rabbit holes. That sense of wonder meant that Dad stayed open even until the very end to learning new things and having his assumptions proved wrong. And that wonder and curiosity opened the door to lifetime learning for himself and for everybody around him. Ed Jackson had a strong sense of adventure. When he was a teen, his much older sister Cynthia got married and moved to Venezuela. She and her husband Bob invited Dad to spend the summer with them, and that adventure sparked a lifetime of wanderlust and discovery. Dad loved travel. He loved learning new things, exploring new cultures, asking questions, and meeting people. That love of adventure led to epic family road trips. We drove across country and we'd see obscure and not so obscure sights. In fact, I lost my first tooth at the Grand Canyon. Christy and I saw every single historic or scientific site in North Carolina within a 3-hour radius of Fayetteville. We would go on weekly Sunday drives, and before she passed away in 2016, Dad and Mom managed to see all 50 states. After she died, Christy and I became his travel buddies, traveling to Antarctica after he watched Good Morning America and decided he wanted to do that too. And his joy at seeing the glaciers, the penguins, and the whales was even more epic than ours. I'm so glad we were able to go to Australia and New Zealand, the Galapagos, and the Great Lakes with him. Those memories are forever memories. And even when he was sick, he knew he wanted to see the glaciers and the whales one last time. And I'm so glad, Megan and Alice, that he got the chance to travel back to Alaska with you this last May. You may not know this, but Dad was an artist. He loved creating with his hands and making things beautiful. I know we loved the larger-than-life reindeer and Santa's sleigh he used to cut out of corrugated cardboard and put up on the roof of our house at Fraser Court. But he brought that artistry into small things too, like the way he cut vegetables and fruit when he was entertaining, or the way that he would make Mickey Mouse pancakes to serve to his granddaughters or our friends. He transformed our garage every year into a haunted puppet stage, and he would perform the count for the neighborhood kids, and he would spark laughter with really bad dad puns. Some of the music you heard today as you came in reflected that sense of humor and the kinds of things that would play in our basement at Halloween. And when Christy and I were bit by the theater bug, he jumped right in, playing all kinds of roles at the Fort Bragg Playhouse, the Cape Fear Regional Theater, and Spring Lake Little Theater. His motivation may have started with making sure we stayed out of trouble, but who can forget his Dr. Chumley and Harvey, his Reverend Witherspoon in 1776, or his wizard in Revenge of the Crone. Christy, how do you spell that?
W-T-H-A-T.
His imagination was big, and he encouraged that in others. When my girls were small, Miranda told you, he built them the most amazing puppet theater. And we loaned that stage to the Shenandoah Valley Discovery Museum after they outgrew it. That theater is still being used by children today. In fact, since we loaned it to them 10 years ago, it has fueled the imaginations and storytelling of 500,000 children. It all started with theater that he made because he knew you all needed it. Dad's life wasn't easy. To say that his earliest years were formed in traumatic conditions is kind of understating it. When he entered the Army at 18, he was looking for a fresh start, a way to meet the dreams and the potential he knew was simmering. My mom, a teacher, saw his potential and encouraged and supported him as he spent the next 20 years trying to earn that elusive bachelor's degree. It took so long because he kept changing stations and he had to retake those courses again and again. I'm old enough to remember the work and the perseverance that went into earning that first college degree, the struggles with his Spanish class, the hours he spent going back and forth with Mom on his papers, the nights he didn't give up. And when he got his degree from Campbell, he kept going, earning that doctorate in what seemed like record time to me. He set an example that led to me earning my own doctorate a decade later, that led to Christy becoming a successful engineer. But in true dad fashion, he never forgot those struggles. He used his years of frustration and pain to make life better for other people. And as you said so eloquently, JC, one of his proudest accomplishments when he was here was the work he did with SOCAD in the 1980s to ensure that future servicemen and servicewomen would be able to take classes anywhere and be able to apply them to their degrees. His struggles paved the way for countless others to be able to follow and achieve their own dreams. Dad was a helper who believed in community, compassion, and social justice. When he saw need, he didn't just want to help. He found practical ways to make a difference. Whether it was working for policy change, reading to kids in underserved communities, or helping out with church and school clubs. He believed in equality. He was an early feminist, although he wouldn't have called himself that, paving the way for his daughters and his granddaughters to forge their own paths, just like he did for the very first women in the 82nd Airborne. He modeled civic engagement for us through Kiwanis, his work in the church, his mission at Fayetteville Tech. He didn't just dream about making the world better than he found it, he did something about it. But the main word I'd use to describe our dad is love. He didn't have to say it for you to know he felt it, although he did say it often and with his heart, at least these last 50 years. He showed love in his actions, in the way he listened, in his rock-solid belief that we could move mountains and change the world. His love was manifest in his hospitality. 30 strangers showing up at the house for breakfast on the way to the beach? No problem. And in his service to the community. And his love lives on in the lives and loves he nurtured, in the 50 years he spent with our mom, in the family they created for Christy and me, in the way they welcomed James and Barry, in the pride and joy they took in their granddaughters, Miranda, Ella, Megan, and Alice, in the many nieces and nephews that he claimed as his own kids, in the countless students and service members he welcomed and served, in the way he showed up again and again to make the community a better place. The warranty on his bypass may have only lasted 20 years, but my dad's heart continues to beat through each and every one of us. Dad is finally at rest, reunited with Mom, and it's now up to all of us to step up and serve. We talked a few minutes ago about needing to be the light in the world. He would want us to pass that light on to others and have you carry that forward into all that you do. So let us honor the incredible life of Dr. Edward Jackson and continue to live lives that make him proud. Thank you.
Here, here.
That was the moment, right? The irreverent Ed Jackson, Dr. Che moment. And he's here. And he's left. There were a lot of things that I would have anticipated would have come before this particular gathering for the Jackson plant. And so the death of my uncle, of your dad, of your father-in-law, just was not expected. Though fortunately for you, you at least saw the train on the tracks a little bit, and just were hoping maybe it would stop for a while. I just want to read a couple things. First of all, I took it upon myself to go online and see what the mottos were for things like the 82nd Airborne Division. all the way, or death from above. So I heard that, JC, and it sounded like he hung right on with all the way or death from above. He was gonna die trying if he didn't make it, and that was how it was gonna be. From right here, education for life. When I earned my doctorate ministry, he looked at me and says, "You're just beginning." You know, continuous education for life. And as a Kiwani, serving the children of the world, they have a beautiful vision. It says Kiwanis will be a positive influence in communities worldwide, so that one day all children will wake up in communities that believe in them, nurture them, and provide the support they need to thrive. Everything I heard you saying was about somebody who was trying to do that kind of nurturing and believing in people and doing everything to help them thrive. You weren't making up a story, because as his favorite nephew, oh, that's right, he made everybody feel like the favorite. It was how I experienced him. So there was a lot that I was looking at saying. And I came across something that I wrote in 2009. And it was on the occasion of the Feast of St. Matthew, from whom this passage in the Beatitudes is written. And as JC said, don't tire of doing good. And all of these virtues that were, not these, but the virtues that were in that gospel from Matthew were there. What I was writing about at the time was the poem, The Colossus. That may not be the most familiar poem to a lot of people. There is a line in here that you will hear read and say, "Oh, I know that story." Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles, from her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that Twin Cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Emma Lazarus wrote that in 1883. She wrote it because she was asked to write that as a piece of artwork, as for an auction that would be used to raise the funds for the platform, the base for the Statue of Liberty. And even when it was commissioned in 1886, they didn't even make a big deal of that then. But it was emblazoned on the statue. And the new Colossus was the only entry read at the exhibit's opening, but was forgotten and played no role in the opening of the statue in 1886. Author John Cunningham wrote that the Statue of Liberty was not conceived and sculpted as a symbol of immigration, but it quickly became so as immigrant ships passed under the statue. However, it was Lazarus's poem that permanently stamped on Miss Liberty the role of unofficial greeter of incoming immigrants. The selection of this poem on the occasion of celebrating the feast day of Matthew, the tax collector, the apostle, the evangelist, as saint may seem odd, After all, Matthew didn't write or inspire its writing, or did it? He was as unlikely a character as any to become a cornerstone of the Christian faith. It is in Matthew's gospel we read Jesus teaching the Beatitudes, "Blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake." And it goes on. And it's also in Matthew's gospel that we read Jesus' teaching of the impossible commandments, after telling his followers that he has not come to abolish the law and the prophets, but to fulfill them. "You shall not murder," maybe you recall hearing that. "And whoever murders shall be liable for judgment. But I say to you that if you're angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment." Another impossible commandment. "You shall not commit adultery, but I say to you that anyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his or her heart." God bless Jimmy Carter. "You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy, but I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven." Just as Matthew was an outsider to those who held power over religious purity and piety before God, Jesus extends blessings to the humble, through whom others have been blessed. And Jesus condemns those who would dare consider themselves be held in favored status over others by words of their own judgment. Jesus makes it clear that no one finds favor by means of their accomplishments or self-sufficiencies. Blessings come to the tax collector who is loathed and despised as readily as blessings come to the righteous for their pious observance. It is out of an awareness of our need of compassion and mercy that we are able to extend compassion and mercy to others. True righteousness comes not through the simple purchase of sacrificial offerings by those with the means to pay. True righteousness cannot be purchased, but our works expressed through the extension of compassion and mercy towards others is certainly a living demonstration that one is choosing to rely on the merit of compassion over sacrifice as that of which is to be offered to God. Emma Lazarus sided with those who were otherwise to be despised and loathed by the people from whom they departed. Here, they would find welcome. Here, they would live free. So I invite us as we look at the conclusion of this reading today and remember the life of one that did not tire of doing good. We are left as the lights, cute little red lights. We are left as the lights that are here to shine in the world. That work of goodness that he did was not for the acolytes that he would receive, though, as was mentioned, I think, if only over a meal. He sure liked it when somebody brought him a cake or did something special for him. Who wouldn't? But he didn't do the things he did for the accolades. He did them because they were the right things to do. And if he didn't do it to count the cost of what it would take for him to do it. He just did it. And it sounds, as I learned, that he continued to say, how do we remove the obstacles that are preventing these people who are laboring so faithfully to serve this country, by showing them that their labors are meaningful and their work can be built on rather than have to keep redoing it over and over. So he has turned a light on in each of us. Will grant that my uncle, Ed Jackson, Dr. J, Dad, Gramps, he wasn't the source of those lights. That's where we get the life of faith It is the source. But he was a vessel, and he shined brightly through it. And when I see a reading like this come crashing onto me and said, well, this is what we need to hear today at this gathering for the people that are here to celebrate my dad, my grandpa, then my job is always to figure out how those readings have something to say to us that are gathered here today. He lived that life. He lived those blessings, and he was indeed blessed. And all he's doing through these readings is inviting you to do the same. So I invite